We'll start. Thanks, Chef Robertson, Chef Hadida, for being with us here in Morissette. Obviously, you won a lot of awards lately, so congratulations again.
Thank you very much.
And so let's start with telling us a bit about yourselves, how you were growing up, obviously, in Ontario, maybe your relationship with food growing up.
Yeah, so I grew up in and around Toronto, and I come from a multicultural background. I was fortunate to get exposed to lots of different foods and cultures, and hearing lots of different languages spoken and things like that, and just becoming very comfortable with the maybe an aspect of the bigness of different cultural identities in the world. Obviously, as a young person, not really considerate of that or not so aware or whatever the case is, but it certainly helped me to develop like a really curious and open-minded palate, which I think was really helpful. And I worked in restaurants in Toronto from a young age, and then I did some traveling. I lived in Europe for a while, and I lived in Latin America for a while as well. And again, just being exposed to lots of different cultures, lots of different food styles. I remember even when I was traveling and living in other countries, I was always interested in like what their third or fourth cuisine was, like what migrant foods had really taken hold, and whether it be like chufa in Lima, or West African food in France, or all sorts of kind of different and interesting things like that. So, I was always fascinated by that full spectrum, like kind of the etymology of different food. And at the same time, had the good fortune of working in lots of restaurants that were very much tied in with agriculture and great growing practices, and, being aware of the provenance of the ingredients, which is something that really aligned with the way that I felt about food and what was important to me. And so, coming back to Canada after working overseas and having the opportunity to work with the team here at Morissette, I feel like was really able to culminate a lot of those experiences of, working on farms and being in rural environments, and prioritizing the connection between where things are coming from and how they're being enjoyed. And I think, that has a lot to do with, what my work looks like now. So, yeah.
I grew up in Brantford, Ontario, smallish town, kind of surrounded by agriculture. I didn't have, my family's cooking mostly like kind of food from the UK, Ireland, Scottish dishes and stuff. And so for me growing up, food was, delicious part of, we'd have dinner every night together, but I wasn't like, cooking with my Nona or something like that, like a lot of these chef's table stories. But I did find a lot of connection with food, or to the region, like growing up, because mountain biking, going for hikes in the woods, spending a lot of time outside as a kid with a ton of energy. So I'd be outside a lot. And then, I moved to into cooking like a little bit as a second career after racing mountain bikes and road bikes for a long time. Got into cooking. I loved it. I loved it in high school as well too, just as like a way to, learn and provide for myself, but also like cook for other people. And made me feel special. And I switched into cooking in a full-time, like fine dining restaurants, when I was around 21 years old. Before that, I was racing my bike semi-professionally. Before that though, I always had a love for cooking. I knew I wanted to be a chef, really because I wasn't good at anything else. And I liked cooking. It was a way to kind of express myself, as a way to make other people feel good. It was a way to make myself feel good from the reactions. And I really like that about cooking. Once I got into fine dining cooking, I dove right in. Like I would, study, I would read about it. I luckily had good kind of like support system around me of like the restaurant that I was working at. Although it was a small town restaurant, they were very interested in like, the big chefs of the world. And, like I was getting, El Bulli cookbooks or the Brandon cookbooks.
I know you talk about
so it was really special as far as like, a little bit of an upbringing there within that team. After that, I realized that I wanted to see some more. So I moved to Toronto. And then after that, cooking in Toronto was great. Cooked in Montreal. I found myself overseas. I moved to Belgium. Luckily, I really found what I wanted to do with cooking at that time, or like at least a cuisine or style of kitchen management that I really related to. I was at a restaurant called Indewolf, which is closed now, but the chef Kobe Desimov was a great mentor to me, and really kind of showcased, and Daniel was there as well too, like just, what you could do with great producers in a region. It didn't have to be, the most, A5 Wagyu or whatever. It was like, there was a beauty and like a specialness to like the farmers that were just across the road or down the street, and those strawberries that were picked fresh, and they made it onto the menu. And that for me was, coming from a small town, coming from a community surrounded by agriculture, it was like I could relate to those ingredients a lot more than I could relate to foie gras. And so that's really, I kind of found like, okay, well, I want to do something like this. So this feels a little bit more real and less like, like cosplay. And so, and then coming back to Canada, after a few years there, it was, that was kind of the drive behind, figuring out what we were going to do here. It was like, hey, we know that there's good farming in Ontario, good farming in the areas. Okay, how can we get our hands on that? How can we get these people to work with the restaurant as well too? There's a lot of restaurants at that time that were working with local farmers, or not many. And so that was a big part of how we got here.
And just getting a little bit into your background as well, I know you worked at different places like diners and even Peter Pit.
Yeah.
So how did that,
Hardware.
Yeah, I know. How did that experience, did that like impact you? Does it change in any way that you think about food, or anything that specifically stayed with you?
Things in pockets, for example.
Uh-huh.
You can have pockets of
Yeah. No, it was like at that time I knew I had to do something. There was, I think, when I was working at Peter Pit was a job in high school, but then post high school, like I was working, or maybe just at the end of high school, working as a dishwasher at a diner. And I knew that I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to stay doing that. It provided an urgency for me to like get out of my hometown a little bit. Not in a negative way. I love going back to my hometown now, but like I needed to be successful or to be something beyond that. I need to have get outside the city limits a little bit. So that's where a lot of those things, those experiences impacted me, and like I gotta get my act together a little bit.
Nice. And then Chef Hadida, you worked, like you said, at pastry, as a pastry chef in Septime, other great restaurants in Pujol, Central, and in Latin America. So for me, it's interesting to see if working especially in pastry, so different. Is that something that, changed the way you think about how you cook certain things, or?
Yeah, certainly working pastry and doing pastries and doing savory cooking tends to evolve around different roles. But in a lot of ways, I was in environments where I was still just operating like a savory cook, with that same mentality and kind of building pastry dishes that way or sweeter dishes that way, and trying to be aware of that and trying to learn my way from it. But yeah, there's no doubt that my training wasn't in basic pastry recipes. And so that definitely changes how those types of desserts are informed, or sweet courses are informed. It's not based around cakes and stuff like that necessarily. It's based around flavors, which I think is a major difference than how, let's say, pastry training works, right? Pastry training is fruit and vanilla and, meringue, and there's kind of like, it's a bit formulaic. Whereas I think as a cook, especially working in restaurants that change the menu a lot, and you were in the shit and you had minimal resources, small kitchens and really highly demanding, you had to be strategic in how things were going. And so I think that it's more the opposite, is that I use my savory training to inform the process around cooking sweet courses. I think if anything, it just, keeps you mindful of the importance of like balance and structure and progression and all that kind of stuff, right? So
Cool. And obviously, you guys are very farm forward. A lot of stuff that you guys cook with came from the farm here. I guess, Chef Robertson, I know you worked at butchery before. So did that also come into play as far as?
In the early days when we had pigs on property, like we would take them to an abattoir, but then even I guess still to this day, we get most of our animals come in whole, aside from like cattle will get split down. But like, yeah, we still get whole lambs, whole, everything whole. And so I think it was, a lot of chefs like Daniel and a lot of the team here have worked with, whole animals in some regard in restaurants, but with the butchery background, it helps streamline those a little bit more, and it helps, train other people on that. Okay, this is how a butcher does it. And even that was my experience going into butcher shop. I thought I knew everything about how to break down a pig, and I was a cool chef, and then you get humbled pretty quickly. And so with that experience, it was like, it made those decisions of like, okay, well, every animal is going to be coming in whole to this restaurant. When we were only 4 of us in the kitchen, it made that decision a lot easier, because like, okay, we can do that now, because I can take care of that while everything else gets taken care of by someone else. And it's not going to take me a whole day to do it. It's going to take me a quarter of that time. So it helped make those decisions to work in the way that we do now a lot easier. And now, thankfully, there's a lot more people that can handle that stuff on the team.
And then when you first started, I guess, working here in 2015, what was kind of the reason? Obviously, there was the farm and the local products that you can use. But other than that, is there anything that really make you say, this is an opportunity I want to do, versus, let's say, go to Toronto, where you're working at a more quote-unquote conventional restaurant? What was the reason?
I was looking to be out of Toronto for a short period of time. My expectation was me traveling soon afterwards. And I was thinking to come out here, probably in a similar way that Eric was thinking about doing butchery, which was like, here's something where I'll continue learning, and will tide me over. And I know there's a ceiling on this, but will tide me over for a period of time. And that was my understanding coming out here as well, which was learning a little bit more about husbandry and taking a little bit more of a lead on building out a garden and farm, something that I'd spent time doing as more of an apprentice capacity in the past. And at a certain point, I recognized I think the overall values of the business that existed before me here very much aligned with what was important to me, especially a lot of open-mindedness and real creative drive. And so, that's where it just came to be a little bit, just kind of like had some ideas and put them out there, and things evolved over a period of time. And then, next thing you know, here we are. Right. So yeah, I hate to say it, but it kind of does go that way a little bit sometimes. So yeah, I think that was like, when did I make the decision? Like, I don't know, just kind of kept doing stuff, and stuff kept happening. And then Eric joined the team, and obviously I was pretty serious at that point. Once I'm engaging with someone else who's like, I think if anything, I felt probably a sense of responsibility a lot more so at that point, because I took that seriously, because I knew how much Eric cared about the work he does and stuff like that as well. So that certainly was like, a really good boost and morale boost, and probably not vindication, not justification, like validation. Yeah, that was like a validating thing. Like, okay, cool. That's a really good opportunity for this. Now we can push things further and all that stuff. So certainly that was like a pivotal point as well, And yeah, I don't know.
We'll fail together.
Yeah.
There's a good sort of camaraderie between you guys. You understand, the same ideas, what you want to achieve, kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think we were like collegial as well. Like, I think we had there was like a mutual professional respect, because where Eric was working in Europe, in the Wolf was like a novel restaurant to be at that time. It wasn't super well known outside of like more foodie circles. And likewise, where I was working at a Septime, it was kind of just before they had really started to kick off. And like, if you had asked me, a handful of restaurants I was really keen to eat at that point, within the area that I was in, like In Wolf would be very near the top of that list. And I know that when Eric was in Paris, he'd come eat at Septime, or we'd go for a beer afterwards or whatever. But there certainly was like a natural, like a mutual understanding right off the jump of like, okay, we must see things the same way, because how the hell else did we end up here? And we didn't know each other beforehand or anything, And so I think whatever informed those decisions that we made individually, and then recognize that in one another, that thread certainly still maintains today. Like, that's a good thing. If you got your ass all the way out here to this crazy place in the middle of nowhere or whatever, I would do that as well. And I reckon that a lot of the things that got you there I got some of those as well. Something along those lines, right? Like, it's a niche tunnel of crazy that we're traversing here.
The cooks that were there were few and far between, or the cooks that had success in those restaurants were few and far between.
Yeah.
And then to both find ourselves back in Canada within 50-kilometer radius is even more rare. So,
but also, having worked at multiple places, right? Like, in both cases, having worked at multiple places that were in this same vein, it's just like, there's parallel ideologies evolving like disparately though. in a way, right? And I think that continues to inform the way that we operate today, with the support of what's going on around us, with the belief of other individuals, with the early support of like a certain community that was willing to come out and jump on board with that as well. So I think to that, like there was definitely a thread of truth that again has been validated, that we've sort of stuck with through thick and thin a little bit. And I think that's been a real key important factor. But that was also something built in Eric and I, again, separately, a really long time ago, and it's just that other people recognize that or relate to it or whatever it is. And I think like earnestness is a part of it, but I also think like an intention towards, wanting something better is an important part of that as well.
Stubbornness.
Right? Yeah.
Stubbornness.
Big time. Yeah.
Cool. To your point, when you're building the property out, obviously a lot of components, the vineyards, the farm, obviously, the bakehouse. I don't know if you have any other things in the plan, but there's a lot of stuff you're growing. So how do you manage all these different elements? Do they ever come in conflict? And if they do, how do you manage them?
Well, yeah, we can speak more to the farms rather than vineyards, because the vineyards were established before the restaurant.
A decade before.
Yeah. Quite a long time before we ever stepped on the property here. And the success of the farm really comes with finding the right people, trusting them, them having trust that their work is going to get used as well too in the restaurant. So like a two-way street there, and really just setting times where we, like, when the dust settles, we'll talk and we'll figure things out and make things better for the next year on both sides of that. And that's really a kind of a mutual agreement between the garden team or even, the bakery team and the restaurant team. Is we try to employ people and work alongside people that are driven. They're going to take it from cradle to grave, these projects. And they're also coming out here as like a little bit of a beacon that it's like, well, here's an opportunity for me to really dive into herbs or floral arrangements or this, style of working in a garden that's going to support a restaurant. And it's like, they're just looking for that, essentially blank slate that we're able to provide. And that's, and then those people just run with it. And it's great. It's a great thing to work alongside. It's energizing. It's special. It's educational for all the team as well as myself. It's like, you see things that I never, imagined tasting or imagined, even knew could grow in this area. So it's really special to have these people working alongside us.
Cool. And so going back to the kitchen and menu itself, how do you guys create your dishes in general? And do you start with flavors? Do you start with the ingredients? How do you work on your menu?
I think across the board, it's definitely like ingredients and flavors absolutely is a driving force. Where, I remember you acknowledged that a year ago, we were talking about it and it's kind of like, getting excited about that first and foremost. And I still think that is the best way to make food, is to be excited about ingredients and flavors. Like, because everything else is pretty easy to sort out secondarily a little bit there. But I think, that's across, like, bakery here, anything that we're doing, cocktails, all that sort of stuff, it kind of starts with that, But
start with having a new ingredient come in the door or ingredient that's coming to season, trying to cook it the most delicious way. And that's where it goes from. It's not, we're not test kitchen chefs. We're not that smart. We're not trying to like evoke a certain memory or recreate something for people. We're trying to.
There's a little tiny bit of that, but it's not expressed maybe.
Yeah.
There's some
background. I don't think of it. There's, I guess some, but like, it's more rooted in like, okay, we have these incredible ingredients. What's the best way that we can cook these within this menu? And that's where we start, every week or every season.
Every day. Honestly, every day. Like,
and so go from there with it. And then there's like a supercharged moment of like, if we found this new ingredient or we have something new, like fenugreek seeds coming in, and fenugreek stems are the ones today and yesterday.
Yeah. That's right.
So writing those onto the menu for next week, it's like, okay, that's something we never grew here before. Yeah. It's something that we know and love. It's a delicious ingredient, or a really nice kind of flavor bound. And so that's gonna be us for the next 2 weeks. Probably is running with that and seeing what we can cook up. And so that's really what leads to change in the menu. That's really what leads to change, and then things just being not available anymore because of the way that we work with farms and the way we work with different suppliers as well too. If they don't have it, we don't look elsewhere. We just see what else they have, or find something else to cook with.
To that point, I guess we're still having a late summer-ish weather.
Yeah.
When winter comes, which inevitably does, how do you guys work around that? In terms of your cooking or your sourcing of product?
I mean, certainly we're doing a lot of preserving that tends to be like kind of pragmatic. Like we're growing a lot of things here. We don't, if we haven't used all the meadowsweet or all the hibiscus by the time that it's getting close to frost, then we're going to dry it and we're going to make vinegars. And it's right now every day. Cooks are working on that stuff. The garden team's working on some preserving and stuff like that as well. We have a greenhouse that we can get a lot of things from. And then the nature of how we operate kind of changes a little bit as well, because there's still lots of food available, right? Like that's the big thing. And it's kind of a question of how to make use of it. And so whether that is stuff in the greenhouse or cellar vegetables or more protein heavy with shellfish and stuff like that, or getting into a lot of different preserves and kind of utilizing the full spectrum of those sorts of things, it all sort of plays its way in for sure. So,
yeah, looking into the winter, things change. Like, it's, we focus a lot more on hogget, beef, shellfish, like Daniel said, and then cellar vegetables as well too. Like most of a good portion of the farm right now is just growing straight for the cellar as well too. So
and leaving things in the ground as well,
yeah.
Right?
Like overwintering, we'll pull those up in March, and that's just like that's working with the region that we have here, working with some might say obstacles, but it's the way that we have to work. And it's, we have a cellar where we stock with beets, kohlrabies, rutabagas, onions. There's other farmers that we work with for garlic. And then, like Dana mentioned, the greenhouse, which is really packed with herbs and greens that can really have an impact on a dish. Like, so we try to have a lot more flavor, things that would maybe like throw it from like the sweet root vegetables, the winter. So it's like a lot of lemon thyme, verbena, bay leaf. We grew allspice last year. That was a really kind of savior over the winter months as well too. Like
the fenugreek's a good example, like a small amount of stuff.
It's like something like that will carry us for a little bit because we'll use it on different things, and it's creative. It's a creative driver for the next couple months, and then I just gotta. Then we make it through the winter, and then next thing you know, the farm team adapts and they start growing like smaller vegetables to be able to have things fresh out of the ground or out of the soil in April, and then we'll pull those out. You get into foraging in the early spring, and next you know we're back here again. So, yeah,
nice. I know Chef Hadida, you said in one of the interviews talking about finding out stuff that you guys talked before. We're not in the fine art business. We're in the making people happy with nourishment business. So for you, what does that mean specifically? And is there anything that comes to mind for you that when you're like happy and nourished yourself?
Yeah, good question. So I think that, that's not me being critical of either, métier, craft, or fine art for sure. But it's more so just acknowledging the fact that fine art is pretty specifically designed to be kind of like emotionally storytelling and very graphically engaging, and to kind of, there's often some abstractness that's built in one way or another, and that kind of is more of like a leading element. Whereas I think in any more craft-based thing, it's definitely about like the function to a certain extent, like, and you're trying to really assess like the beauty in function. And get excited about that. And I think that relates a lot to kind of how we operate in general, or just even just think about food in general, is like acknowledging that there is a function to it. And, we'll be at the chair that doesn't know it's supposed to be sat in a little bit, right? And I think similarly, when you're making food, like people are going to eat it ultimately, and like you want them to be able to enjoy it and have a good time with that. So it's not, if you're trying to challenge people, I think it's less about challenging, more about like getting people excited, and engaging that side of it. Like it is entertainment, right? And when you go to an art gallery, it's certainly a type of entertainment, and this is a very different type of entertainment, but also entertaining.
All right.
Right.
Okay. And then anything that comes to mind, talk about like when you were like happy around food or being nourished?
Yeah. So that's a good question. So definitely it's like when things are really satisfying, even like there's a dopamine factor to certain ways of eating when you're eating like lots of little snacks, like a bunch of canned seafood and pickles and stuff. That's like really exciting. There's set and setting and contextualization, eating some coconut shrimp on the beach somewhere with like, the bottled plum sauce is like pretty, with a like mojito or something, like that's a great food experience, right? Some banger fries, like that can really hit, that can really get you where you need to go, like a 7-layer dip. Nothing wrong with that. Or it can be like sitting in a fine dining restaurant and getting blown away. Or, someone brings in some food that their grandmother made and you get a taste of it cold and you're like, holy shit, like what's going on with that? So I think that there's so many different ways to really be engaged with food, but it's going to be really unique for different people as well, So, yeah.
So as we talked before, you guys have been ranked number 1 on Canada's 100 best lists. Michelin 1 star, and then you're also number 3 in top 50 in North America. Some restaurants really go for awards, some don't care, some whatever. And for you guys, what do you think about the awards, and also does that change the way you run your business or the restaurants?
I think, Daniel, myself, and a lot of the team here, we are competitive, we're driven. And I think accolades or those things that, like Michelin stars or Canada Best, I think it's a good little way to remind yourself of like, I'm going to give it 100% today. Because, you can't expect every team member to walk in and, be super motivated to do the best job possible. And you can't expect that of yourself as well, too. And each day in and day out, it's hard. It's a hard job. And so with those goals or those, accolades, it's something to just kind of like push, get the team rallied behind and go for it. And also, and when you do achieve them, it's something to celebrate. And it's a great thing that, the whole team, like dishwashers, everyone is,
Farmers.
Yeah, farmers, everyone is so excited for it. It's like one of the first phone calls I get every time is from one of our farmers. And it's like in the community, like, having people pull up here, they're local and taking pictures of the Michelin plaque, just because it's in their local area. That happened like the other day. And it's like, that's a really cool thing to get the community behind a restaurant, and feeling, like a sense of pride in a region. It kind of takes me back to, I can speak for myself, like when I was talking about going over to Belgium and seeing like, hey, there's a pride in this region that the chef was kind of driving along and showcasing. And, that's, some of those awards, I think, help bring that to the forefront. Is this something that we're going to like, have our algorithm just to like, make sure that that's, something that we always want to be achieving? Or it's like, no, we're trying to give people a great guest experience. And this is kind of like the fallout of that. And yeah.
So thanks again, Chef, for being with us. I got 2 more questions.
Yeah, of course.
Next one might be a fun one. What's a kitchen or restaurant secret you can tell us?
Kitchen or restaurant secret,
Could be like service, could be food, could be how you prep.
with a spoon.
How you prep, or like
I thought you wanted some dirt.
some dirt,
like
some
big
dirt could work
Michelin
too.
folk.
That would be great too, if you want.
Kitchen secret. Kitchen secret. Kitchen secret. What's it gonna be? Toast your spices. Kitchen secret. Love cooking with animal fat. For sure. Absolutely love it. Save my bacon fat, save chicken fat, love all that stuff. It's a high smoke point, delicious. I always save it and just pour it in a little bowl, throw it in the fridge, take scoops of it when I need it, fry up my eggs and chicken fat. That's always pretty dang delicious. So that's my kitchen secret.
I don't know.
I mean, you're a big meal prep guy for the family. That seems to work out pretty well, which is a pretty solid one that I think most people could learn something from that. But I don't know, that's exciting.
I don't know. That's not an exciting one. Start with good ingredients. Yeah, that's lame. That's not good. That's not a good one.
I'm the king of the world. I'm the golden god. Broth from all the roasted veg trim.
What was that?
Yeah, people want that at home. There's miso. If there's some miso in there, you're good to go, man. Good way to poach an egg. Good trick for fucking.
I have 2 small kids at home, so a lot of my cooking at home is just my kitchen tip would be like, try to do everything in one pot and clean as you go.
Yeah.
That's it. Clean as you go.
That could be tough sometimes.
Yeah.
And last question, any exciting plans in the future you can share with us? Anything you're working on?
You know what, man? After a real wild decade, I think that, there's the temporal landmark of like year's end coming up. And between where I sit right now and when that is, I feel super comfortable just being really open to the world during that time, making a little space for myself for the next few months, and then kind of committing to that like renewal, reassess, plan, strategize process early in the year. So I think that after hitting some pretty big, vanity markers over the last little while. Just taking stock of things and kind of being clear-headed feels like a good way to practice self-care over the next little while.
Yeah, and likewise, we had goals that we were hoping to hit within the next 3 to 5 years, and we just hit them in the last month. So it's I think the next couple months are going to be a little point of reflection, a little point of figuring out what we're going to kind of reset our goals for the team and for ourselves. And then we're also super excited to be working on our cookbook right now. That's going to be coming out with Fighting in 2027, spring 2027. So that's taking up a good amount of downtime as well too. And again, talking about reflection, going back old recipes, going back through old menus, writing about some of the early relationships with the farmers that we've had, and
sorry, you're on a roll. You're doing.
I know.
Old relationships.
Reminiscing with those the kind of the times we met with a lot of the farmers that you still work with today is a nice little kind of remedy to the staying grounded during the past couple months. Nice.
Damn, brings it all the way back around. Brings it all the way back around. The alley-oop.
Yeah, I assume that's a lot of
gone.
A lot of like you said, working with working with a team must be different, like challenging sometimes. You're right, just the stress in the kitchen sometimes.
We have a great team. Like, yeah, we have an amazing team. Like, and none of the stuff, like that we've accomplished in the past year, the team's accomplished in the past year it would be possible without like core people like Liam over there is the chef de cuisine.
Pan in on the inch.
Yeah. Keeping the kitchen running smooth every day so we can sit down and have these conversations, because 8 years ago this was impossible. And like the farm team, the producers that we work with, they're all super engaged and work alongside us. The bakery,
the winery team who maintains the whole property here as well, which is like such a huge aspect of it, right?
Exactly. Like, all that is how we're sitting here today. So it's stressful. There's things that a lot of that stress is somewhat self-inflicted by the way that we decide to work in this restaurant. But it's easier when you have great people around you supporting you.